never said he was my partner. That was the truth. It was also the spark. The evening it happened, Madrid was still breathing summer even though October had arrived on the calendar. Heat clung to the stone buildings of lavapiés, and the air smelled of dust, fried calamari, and spilled beer. The gallery opening was crowded, loud, all sharp angles and white walls, and people pretending not to watch each other. I stood near a sculpture made of rusted iron and glass, a piece about fragmentation and memory. At least, that's what the placard said. To me, it looked like something that had survived a collapse. "Who are you here with?" a woman asked me, smiling too brightly. She wore black linen and expensive indifference. "A colleague," I said. Across the room, Matteo froze. He was holding 2 glasses of cava, one tilted slightly, sloshing over the rim. I didn't see his face clearly, but I felt the shift, like a pressure change before a storm. Later, on the street, under the flickering yellow of a broken lamppost, he asked me why. "Why what?" I said, genuinely confused. "Why you didn't say my name," he said. "Why you didn't say I was your partner." I shrugged, already tired. It wasn't relevant. It was a work thing. His jaw tightened. "You're ashamed of me." "That's not true." "Then why hide me?" I wanted to say 100 things. That my job in cultural policy required neutrality. That labels invited assumptions. That I'd spent my life being defined by men and was trying finally to exist without explanation. Instead, I said, "You're overreacting." That was the moment I decided to end. Matteo was not a dramatic man. He believed in slow punishment, in teaching lessons. By the time I realized what he was doing, the damage was already structural. We had been together 6 years, lived together 4. He was a documentary filmmaker who believed truth was something you extracted, even if it hurt. I worked for the Ministry of Culture, navigating budgets, egos, and histories that refused to stay buried. I grew up in Toledo, in a house full of secrets. My grandmother never spoke of the Civil War, but its shadows lived in the walls. My grandfather had informed on neighbors to survive. My father inherited the guilt and passed it on like an heirloom, wrapped in silence and alcohol. Matteo knew all of this. He said it made me careful. He said he loved that about me. The first thing he did was small. He stopped introducing me as his partner. At dinners with friends, I became Lucia, nothing more. At first, I didn't mind. I told myself it was symmetry, fairness. Then invitations stopped coming to me directly. Then people began to ask, casually, if Matteo and I were still a thing. He moved out while I was at work, not all at once. A camera gone, books missing from the shelves. His clothes thinning like hair under stress. When I confronted him, he smiled softly. "I didn't say I was leaving," he said. "I just didn't say I was staying." I slept badly. Madrid turned hostile, too loud, too intimate. Every street held a memory. Every cafe chair felt occupied by absence. Then the rumors began. That I was difficult. That I used people. That I had slept with a senior advisor to get my position. That I had discarded Matteo when he became inconvenient. I recognized the pattern instantly. My mother had worn the same accusations when my father left her. Whispers that stuck harder than truth. I went to see her in Toledo, in the same house where the walls still listened. "He's rewriting the story," I said. She nodded, stirring sugar into her coffee, though she no longer drank it sweet. Men do that when they're afraid of being forgotten. "I didn't do anything wrong," I said. "No," she replied. "But you broke a rule. You didn't center him." The realization settled heavy and cold. Mateo's latest documentary was set to premiere at a major festival in Barcelona, a film about memory, betrayal, and the ethics of silence in post-dictatorship Spain. Critics were already praising its moral courage. I had read his scripts. I had helped him access archives. I knew where the bodies were buried, metaphorically and otherwise. Revenge didn't arrive as anger. It arrived as alignment. I requested a transfer, temporarily, to the department overseeing cultural grants. Quietly, legally. I recused myself from anything directly related to Mateo, of course. Ethics mattered. Appearances mattered more. Then I started asking questions. Why had certain testimonies been excluded from the film? Why had one key interviewee withdrawn consent at the last minute? Why did funding sources shift so conveniently after early cuts? I didn't accuse. I documented. I spoke to the interviewee, an old man in Almeria whose father had been executed. He told me Mateo had pressured him to simplify his story, to fit a cleaner narrative. He said complexity confuses people, the man said. I said truth is complex. I connected him with a journalist I trusted. The article came out 2 weeks before the premiere. It didn't attack the film. It questioned its integrity. Festivals are allergic to doubt. Sponsors panic. Panels cancel. Mateo called me at midnight, his voice unsteady for the first time in years. "Was this you?" he asked. I looked out my window at the Gran Via, neon bleeding into rain. "You didn't say I was your partner?" I said calmly. "So I didn't say I was protecting you." Silence. "You're destroying my career," he said. "No," I replied. "I'm letting people see what you edit out." The premiere went ahead, smaller, quieter. Reviews were mixed, praise threaded with suspicion, the kind that never quite goes away. He tried to confront me in person once, outside the Reina Sofia. His face was pale, his confidence fractured. "You could have talked to me," he said. "So could you," I answered. That winter, Madrid turned sharp and dry. I walked more, slept better. The city felt reclaimed, no longer mapped by him. Months later, I heard Mateo had moved to Berlin. Reinvention, exile. Same thing, really. At a conference in Seville, a young curator introduced me to her colleagues. "This is Lucia," she said. "She's formidable. No qualifiers, no explanations." I smiled, thinking of my grandmother, of all the women who learned too late that silence is not neutrality. I never said he was my partner, and in the end, he made sure he wouldn't be. But the story didn't belong to him anymore.